Today our guest is the head of Law and Development Public Union, Hafiz Hasanov. Welcome to our studio. Thank you. Today we will discuss the complaints sent to Central Election Commission regarding the elections. The parliamentary elections is over. What about the complaints? What about their nature? Of course, there were legal violations in every state, and the violations were classified according to their stage. To the current stage, we can speak about the violations on the voting day and documentation of the election results. About 90% of the complaints were related to the results of elections in the election constitution. So the complaints are of this nature, and the consideration of these appeals coincided with the non-working days, holidays, and most of the elections filed to the election commissions were delayed. There were the violations which didn't have a strict influence on the election results. There are some election complaints that were not fulfilled. Consideration of the complaints were prolonged, some were terminated, and in some election complaints the requirement was not clear as the election commission says, and they were terminated. Has there been any fulfilled complaint? There has not been any complaint fulfilled yet, but the consideration of many complaints were delayed and duration of the consideration was prolonged. There are some election constituencies about which more than one complaints were sent to the election commission. There are complaints that 7 candidates, for example, complain of rigging of elections in favor of one elections. We don't see any positive elements. The trends has not changed. The trends have not changed. And what about the duration of consideration? How many days are established by the law? We also raised this issue in court proceedings because Central Election Commission prolonged the duration of the consideration, citing an article in the electoral code. But actually, there is no such a clause in the legislation, and neither Venice Commission approves it. Just that the law says that the term can be prolonged if there is a need for investigation. You noted that most of the complaints were related to the results of the voting, and there is also a counting of ballot papers or participation of candidates during the counting process, and with the attendance of press outlets. This didn't happen. What about this? We conducted the monitoring of elections. I want to mention an issue. The same violations committed in previous years were committed with much more professionalism and much more improved techniques this year. Earlier, the ballot papers were falsified in the constituency election commissions. Now this process is carried out directly in the precinct election commissions. Great number of ballot papers were thrown into the ballot boxes. Same persons voted for numerous times, and same persons voted in different election precincts. There were gross violations, gross election fraud, but however, these violations were not investigated. Thank you for coming to our studio. Today our guest was the head of Law and Development Public Union, Hafiz Hasanov.
Sağ olun, ben size teşekkür ederim.